Hello class, welcome to Introduction to Islamic Ethics 2, Major Islamic Teachings. Now whenever I talk about teachings within the Quran, I always like to start with this quote, which is from the second chapter or surah, where the Quran talks about those who are truly good or truly virtuous Muslims. So it says here, the truly good are those who believe in God and the last day, in the angels, the scripture, and the prophets, who give away some of their wealth, however much they cherish it, to their relatives, to orphans, the needy, travelers, and beggars, and to liberate those in bondage, those who keep up the prayer and pay the prescribed alms, who keep pledges whenever they make them, who are steadfast in misfortune, adversity, and times of danger. These are the ones who are true, and it is they who are aware of God. So there's two things to be aware of. One is that it is revealed in this kind of passage what kind of like the ideal Muslim is. So one who believes in God, the last day, the angels, the scriptures, and the prophets. Those who are charitable, right, give away their wealth. Those who kind of liberate those in bondage, keep up with praying, paying the prescribed kind of alms to the Ummah or community, who keep pledges, that is, who are honest and trustworthy, and steadfast in misfortune. And the second point I want to make from this quote is that it just goes to show, or that it demonstrates, that to be a Muslim is a two-sided coin. That is, not only is it about belief, but it's about practice. So it's not only about believing things, but acting on things. So just something to be aware of. So in this presentation, we are going to talk about 5 major kind of themes that appear in the Quran. And again, there are many different subjects that are discussed in the Quran, but we have to narrow them to 5 for the sake of time. So we're going to talk about the Quran's teachings on Allah, the prophets, charity, the Ummah, and judgment. So first teaching, like Judaism, Islam believes in a strict form of monotheism. So there is one God, Allah. And as a result of this, Islamic theologians deny the concept of the Christian Trinity, believing it to be kind of like a form of like backdoor polytheism. So again, there's one God, Allah, strict monotheism. And here is a quote from the Quran, which really touches upon or hits home the nature of God. So in the name of Allah, most benevolent, ever merciful, whatsoever is in the heavens and the earth sings the praises of God. He is almighty and all wise. He is the king of the heavens and the earth. He is the giver of life and death, and he has power over everything. He is the first and the last, the transcendent and the immanent, and he has knowledge of everything. So what we learn here is that Allah is all benevolent, all merciful, that is like all powerful, almighty, all wise, knows everything, and is both the transcendent or the heavenly, and also that which is present on earth. So basically, Allah encompasses everything, knows everything, and is control of everything. Now, Allah does have an adversary who goes by the name of Iblis in the Quran, which is basically the Islamic version of Satan. Now, how did Iblis become Allah's adversary? Well, according to the Quran, Iblis refused to bow to the first man, Adam. So Allah creates the first man, Adam, asks the angels to bow, and Iblis refuses. Therefore, Iblis is not a Muslim because he refused to submit to the will of Allah. And as a result, Iblis was banished from heaven, and he vowed to tempt humanity away from the straight path. So Iblis is like the great tempter to kind of pull people off the straight path of Islam. Second teaching, the prophets. So in response to Iblis's threat, Allah sends prophets or messengers to lead humans onto the straight path. And the Quran acknowledges the Hanif or monotheistic prophets of the religions of the book, Judaism and Christianity. And several are mentioned in the Quran, like Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Moses, Mary, and Jesus, again, just to name a few. Now, according to the Quran, these prophets, one, were all Muslims, meaning those who submit in Arabic, because they all submitted to the will of God. And they are also Muslim because they preached about Islam, that is the path to peace. So as far as Muslims are concerned, all of these prophets were Muslims. Another major theme that appears in the Quran is that of muruwah, or charity. So it is written that one of the signs of submission to the will of Allah is through giving charity. And here's kind of a classic quote. So, have you seen him who denies the day of judgment? It is he who pushes the orphan away and does not induce others to feed the needy. Woe to those who pray but who are oblivious of their moral duties, who dissimulate and withhold things of common use from others. So again, do not be tight-fisted. That means that you are not a true Muslim. So a true Muslim is one who gives freely. All right, the fourth teaching, the Ummah. So the Ummah refers to the religious community of Muslims. And the Quran preaches about the Ummah, or the ideal society of peace, in which all citizens are united in submission to the will of Allah. And in the Quran, it's kind of indicated that when the Ummah is released, there will be perfect, peace and justice in the world. So it is only when all people in this community submit to the will of Allah that there will be peace and justice. And lastly, the judgment. So the Quran does discuss the coming of the end of days and the final judgment. And at the end of history, Allah will judge each person according to his or her righteous or wicked deeds. And those who refuse to submit to Allah will be punished with eternal torment in hell, whereas those who do submit will be eternally rewarded in paradise. All right, so now let's just spend a few more minutes and we'll talk about the 5 pillars of Islam, which are mentioned in the Quran but are actually outlined in the Hadith. All right, so let's first talk about what the purpose of the 5 pillars are, because I'm sure we've all heard and maybe even studied in high school the 5 pillars, but why are they there? Like, what is their purpose? So one, the 5 pillars are designed to encourage Muslims to support the Ummah, or the community of those in submission to Allah. 2, they serve as to remind Muslims of their beliefs and duties as Muslims. And thirdly, they are practices of spiritual virtue which reorient Muslims to Allah. So if Muslims are kind of falling off the path, these practices are meant to kind of put them back on the path that leads to some kind of salvation. So these here are the 5 pillars: the Shahada, the Salat, Zakat, Psalm, and the Hajj. So Shahada means the witness, and basically it is this one sentence saying, there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. And Muslims are encouraged to say this as often as they can during the day. Secondly, we have Salat, which is the 5 periods of prayer each day that Muslims are obliged to engage in. And if you have ever seen Islamic prayer in action, you will note that there are very specific steps and sayings that Muslims are to take when they pray. We have Zakat, which is the donation of the 2.5% of wealth to charity annually, and we'll talk more about this in the economic justice unit. Psalm, or the fasting during the month of Ramadan. And lastly, we have the Hajj, which is the annual pilgrimage to Mecca that all Muslims are encouraged to embark on if they are able. And of course, just to end, here is a picture of the Kaaba in Mecca during the Hajj pilgrimage.